Sanam, good morning. This is Krishan Singh, and good morning. Today I'm going to share with everyone about more about cultural detox and the framework for this whole science and more understanding of what it is. So, this idea of cultural detox was really born out of my lifetime authentic searching and seeking for a unified truth, for understanding why we're here as human beings, who we are, what this universe is, what this world is, and really understanding why everything just felt so crazy and didn't make any sense. When I was in high school, I really woke up to the fact that it seemed like everybody was unhappy deeply that I saw. And whether this was a reflection of myself or some sort of an accurate observation doesn't even matter, but that's what I observed. That was my experience, that there was a deep sense of unhappiness and unfulfillment and not an authentic joy coming from the soul for living. And I actually went through a period of time of really asking people, what is life about? What is the meaning of life? What brings you joy? And just like really going into the heart of the whole thing with people, having these conversations that weren't necessarily the norm at all, but it was just my authentic search. So, not really finding any answers, I was talking with a friend, going on a walk. Uh, one of the friends who watches these videos, and she was telling me about this plant that it releases in the brain a chemical that's released 2 times in large quantities in the human being's life. 7 weeks of gestation in the mother's womb and at the time of death. So I was fascinated by this, and I felt that if there's a meaning to life, it would probably be revealed at the time of death. And my logic led me to pursue exploring working with this plant so that I could understand my life and life itself better. So that led me to the jungle, to uh, live with a healer in the jungle, to work with different plants, to explore more the theme. I actually thought that I was just leaving and going to the jungle and never coming back, and I was just going to go live there. Because I didn't see any purpose to being here in the Western culture and the song and happiness and the cycle and things like that. So I went to the jungle, worked with a healer, and really learned what it means to be in a loving family environment and opening my heart through a process of working with plants, living super simply, being in this family that really took me in as their own. And um, I, I came to understand more and more about who I am. And I went through a process of what I call cultural detox. All the garbage from my enculturation as a young child and teen and going through school and all of that and consumption of media and all of that and the physical toxins from the chemicals and the foods and the environmental chemicals and all of that. I went through this process of unloading all of this. And what was left at the end of, I went there initially for just a few weeks. I went back for a few more months. And what was left at the end of this initial process for me was just this presence. There was like a transparency of a being here and a presence that was ready to serve and that was really ready, that was strong, healthy, willing, happy, and present and ready. And what I found when I came back to the United States is I didn't find anybody, not one person really. The best person was my mom, but who really wanted to listen to what I had to share, one, but to also do anything. Like, it was just like status quo. Let's just do what the world is doing, And change, we talk about, there was talk about like, oh, this is not well, this isn't good within the culture, but there wasn't really any movement in my circles at least. So this returning back, being completely transparent, uh, in a large way, led me into a deeper search for meaning and purpose. Because when I was in the jungle, I also went through a process of realizing that my work is not just to go escape. My work is to go back to where I was planted as a seed on this planet, where my birthplace was, and go back there and start there and just share and be myself and be authentic. And that's the work. And authentic healing and transformation happens from that space of showing up, being authentic, and serving, essentially. So I came back really not understanding, okay, why was I sent back here? It brought me deeper in a quest for understanding, like, what is all of this? What is this suffering, essentially? What is this ignorance? Ignoring the way that things are and just status quo, go, become something different in the presence of this moment and the awakeness of this moment and living in this moment as that awakened presence. What is what is the world, essentially, which is not that. It seems like it's a sleepy perpetuation of what has been set in motion already, and just like minor shifts within a certain framework of mindset that is all the status quo. It's the same thing over and over again. Even the shifts are still within that same context of oppression, sleeping, just following, and not this awakened, self-empowered authority of creative infinity, essentially. And here we are on this planet, this infinite possibility, but we're essentially just following this what's been set in motion that doesn't serve us as human beings, etc., etc., etc. It brought me into this quest. I went and took a 10-day Vipassana course, which led me to stay at that meditation center. It's a 10-day silent meditation center run entirely by volunteers, people who have already completed the 10-day meditation. And it's a really healthy environment. It's a great way to get introduced to oneself and to look deeper what's going on inside and how the mind works and how there's a lot more happening every single moment than we're conscious of. We're awake to. So I stayed on these one center, and then I went to another center, which led me deeper and deeper into this tradition of Buddhist um, practice and philosophy, and studying that and practicing very deeply, to the point where I wanted to ordain as a Buddhist monk, to go fully into the teachings, to understand what the Buddha taught, because I truly saw him as a masterful, awakened teacher who came to this planet to share these teachings that are so scientific and amazing. It's a universal science. It's not about like Buddha, the Buddha or Buddhism or this sect. It's just awakened human science of the mind, essentially. So I ordained as a Buddhist monk, spent time in different monasteries, and obviously I'm no longer a Buddhist monk. At a period of time, I recognized that that practice had given me what it was that I was seeking. I was really looking for an insight into understanding the nature of dis-ease, or that's what I call it, suffering, dis-ease. It's essentially when something is out of alignment, there is an indicator, which is like a sign or a noise that tells us something's out of alignment. And that noise is immediate, and it just informs the whole system that something's not in alignment, and that is dis-ease. So just understanding that whole nature of how that works, and really how ignorance works as well. When there's dis-ease, that's not, if we're not in touch with what's going on, it's very natural that dis-ease can become a movement of the mind which creates movement in all dimensions of our being, away from the presence of this moment, which is the reality of who we are, into a sense of becoming. And in that process of becoming, there's a chasing after or a running away from. But it's a dream essentially. It's not a wakefulness of this present moment. It's a dream reality that we get caught in because essentially there's ignorance. There's ignoring the reality of this moment. The deeper we can go into the reality of this moment and be present with that, the more consciously we're directing and creating the life that we're destined to have. That's who we are. That's our potential. We're living our birthright of being co-creators and collaborators and embodiments of that creative energy of universal supreme consciousness. That's who we are by nature. And to embody that is what we're here for. So I studied the Buddhist tradition. I again followed that path to the point of understanding the teachings, and left that tradition because I felt that there was a certain inability to express myself in all of the forms that my soul and heart wanted to in this lifetime. Meaning, you can't sing, you can't dance, you can't. There are many precepts that a Buddhist takes, especially as a monk. So, in that form, I just really. That took me into a period of time where almost immediately I connected with a teacher from the Native American tradition, and in that tradition I was able to study with him for a period of time in a community, and it allowed me to really understand our relationship with nature and that sense of disconnection that has occurred in the ways of living that our culture has formulated, the societal ways of living that fragments us and breaks us off from our connection and our relationship with Mother Nature, and how valuable that relationship is to our sense of completion and wholeness and interconnection. So that brought me deeper into that study, practice, experience, and then weaving that with the awareness and the awakened presence, and the science of the Buddhist tradition, and also the process of really coming into presence, working with the plants and communing with nature from being improved. All of these experiences have really shaped this present moment of what I'm sharing with you now. That's still not the whole story. So from that Native American tradition, I also came in contact with a mystic from Russia, you could say. He taught about Siberian shamanism, which is considered, Siberian shamanism, esoteric astrology, taught about an energetic martial art that is a lot like Kundalini yoga, but it's totally about your emotions and then you channel and focus emotions in healthy, positive ways and transform lower and denser emotions and all the energy that gets stuck in the body, how to work with that and transform it. It's totally emotional practice and transformation of that denser energy into more spiritual and uplifted energy. So Siberian shamanism, it's considered, there's one story that says that the center of the world is in Siberia, and the original race, the Aryan race, came from a mountain range called the Ural Mountains. And the word shaman comes from that area. And essentially, I'm going to just say, from my own understanding, the word shaman just represents a individual who is in touch with the multidimensional reality that we are. And that's it. You know? So shaman used in this day and age so many different elite titles, and I don't even like to use that word because in this age it's contextualized in a way that doesn't represent what I feel the root of it is. But anyway, I studied with this teacher, traveled around the world, also helped him to develop and worked with a community in the school to develop that energetic martial art and wrote a book about it, share that. I lived it really deeply and very strong discipline with that practice as well. There was a time when that whole school that I got very deeply involved with dissolved and fell apart based on some corruption within the hierarchy, structure, and inappropriate behaviors in that. So I went through a whole heartbreak with that process and a letting go and, a, and a real process with that as well. But a lot of really essential learning and empowerment came with that. Essentially, that piece gave me the ability to share in the world with confidence, to understand more how the world works, because I was more of an inwardly meditative fellow. I was becoming more outward. When that school fell apart, I went back to the jungle. I was called back to the jungle literally. A teacher from the jungle wrote me a message on Facebook one day that I was praying. That immediate moment, I got a message uh, just asking how I was, and I knew, okay, the jungle's calling me back. So I went back and spent more time studying and going deeper. To sum that up, deeper reflection on the whole process, and then really developing cultural detox at that point, and recognizing from a whole spectrum of experience, all the way to that heartbreak in the expression in the world, that whole corruption and how it created so much pain for myself and many other people, just recognizing a very deep degree of dis-ease and many dimensions of how it manifests itself, and then the root causes for it really essentially being disconnected from the heart. But then there are many different dimensions of what can create disease if we don't have the right relationship with our environment, with the universe, with human beings. So cultural detox. Now, last piece, Kundalini Yoga came into my life as a very healthy version of that same energetic martial art. I use that technology of Kundalini Yoga in a similar way. There's not the same contextualization of the teachings to understand the energy of what you're doing, but that's something that I really bring to the understanding of Kundalini Yoga is how you're working with your emotional energy and the realm of emotions, which usually human beings in Western society are living from the mental realm. Emotions are on a different level that we're not even conscious of. And part of this waking up process is becoming awake to a multidimensional spectrum of the self, to understand there are many, many, many dimensions of our being simultaneously existing in complete worlds unto themselves. And the more that we awaken to our multidimensional self, we are experiencing all of these things simultaneously, and they, they synergize as completely individual and separate, but harmoniously operating as a one, in oneness, as a wholeness of who we are, and that's the complete embodiment of our soul. The complete expression of our soul is that multidimensional self that is unified. And so the science of cultural detox is really three parts. One, it's the context and the framework for what cultural detox is. And I still haven't even gotten to that yet. This is still just an introduction piece. But it's the framework for what it is, what the work is, who we are, and what the world is. Essentially, that's the first piece. Second piece is the unloading of the baggage and the removing of the masks to reveal the essential truth of who we are and the reality that shines through us. There's nothing to do except for allow everything to fall away. That's the detoxification. That's the cultural detoxification process. That's the second part. The third part is what I call wholeness education, which is attuning and aligning to healthy and harmonious ways of being and interacting, which is just a healthy expression of that timeless presence and truth of who we are. And that continues to be an evolution and a study, and it's a very deep, broad, wide spectrum of knowledge that includes all healthy traditions that unite us and connect us with Source and teach us how to live in harmonious ways. But in our Western society, we don't have that. We don't know how to take care of ourselves, how to have right relationships. We don't know how to serve the world in a way that is serving our soul simultaneously, how to manifest a vision. All of these aspects are pieces of that science of wholeness education. But those three parts are what cultural detox encompasses: the framework, the detox piece, and then the embodiment piece. Because there are those three aspects to our being. We need to have a context for our life. We need to be able to release the stuff that is not our truth. And we need to be able to embody in full spectrum who we are, the light of our souls, in all dimensions, time and space, and be and embody that. So that's what cultural detox is about. And in the coming days, I will be breaking these pieces down. The most effective form of cultural detox I've seen is going to the jungle, because you step out of the culture entirely, you work with plants, all different plants, to address physical issues within the body, to bring the physicality back into harmony with health, which is a natural extension and expression of that timeless presence. And in that state of health, we feel a state of silence, essentially, and that allows the embodiment of our soul to come through in many more ways. Jungle is very effective. We're going to work with creating some cultural detox protocols for in our everyday life, how to live a lifestyle that's regenerative and not depleted, and how to be able to keep ourselves nourished and fed from a sense of connection with our soul, with the the essential truth within all things that is the same light as of our soul, but seeing it in all things and feeling fed and nurtured, and how to practically navigate our world in a way that is a harmonious expression that doesn't deplete us, because our energy is not going in ways that just aren't like a feedback loop, that aren't feeding us and nourishing us back. So thanks for listening today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I've enjoyed sharing and opening this topic and space. So thank you again. Questions are always welcome, and have a great day. Satnam.